This is a conversation that began about neuroplasticity, but blossomed into something much more, into a land of safety and connection within yourself, with others, and in your sensory experience of this magical little world full of butterflies, lightning, and flowers. Our guest, Dr. Ilene Naomi Rusk, is a beautiful window into the positive healing forces that can change your nervous system for the better. Together, we share about the power of eye contact, imagination, social connection, and much more. Listen to the wisdom within and around you, and through the mouth of Dr. Ilene Naomi Rusk. Let's first travel back to that day when you got struck by lightning. That I believe, yeah, you were having hallucinations, out of body experiences. We're going straight to the lightning story. Yeah, but that, it seems, is one of the big events that sort of sets you off on this trajectory towards becoming a neuropsychologist. Yes, you had a psychiatrist when you were 11 or so, that also kind of taught you this sort of, gave you this self regulation, taught you a little bit of safety. But this lightning event, it, from what I understand, it did kind of shatter things around in a way, and it led to you becoming a neuropsychologist. But it's not just that. It's like it seems like it woke you up to this feeling that it's important to connect to yourself, connect to other people, connect to the wider world out there, nature, and maybe beyond things beyond our perception, or beyond this side of existence or something. What was it about that event or other events that caused you to do what you're doing now?
Well, first of all, I'm very impressed that you know so much about me.
I'm a stalker. I stalk you. No, I prepare. Yes. I prepare.
That's great. I don't talk about my lightning story too much, but when I realized that, first of all, I realized that I had a lot of fears when I was young. And I kind of captured those fears and put them into a bundle of curiosity. I mean, terror. And then I kind of turned it into more of a cortical thing. It turned into curiosity, Michael. And I think that I know that my fears of dying, my fears of getting a neurodegenerative illness, I was afraid of very complex neuropsychiatric illnesses at a very young age.
Really?
So I saw a lot of neurologists very young. Yeah. I mean, everyone has their own place where they direct their anxiety, phobias, and fears. And mine went into kind of somatic, neurologic, psychiatric things. I'm going crazy. And now I understand why it happened. It happened because even though I had a very loving home, and I think that listeners can relate to this. Some of us had very loving homes where there was relative peace. I appreciate that a lot of people in the world right now are suffering where there is no safety and peace. I had a relatively safe home where there was relative peace. But from a psychosocial point of view, there was a lot of chaos. And that really kind of, going back to the origin story, I think that really helped inform my nervous system that I actually wasn't safe. Even though I have loving parents and I've worked my whole life on developing healthy attachment with my whole family, because I think that's an important part of a healing journey. And it has been for me to actually walk the walk of being engaged in healthy relationship. So my answer is also, it's a wide arc of an answer, but my fears took me to my curiosity, and my curiosity took me to my education. And then my education really became my passion. And I have to tell you that my kids make fun of me, but it's still my passion. But it started with fear, right? Mm. It started with the whole lightning story was about, I could have died. I remember the moment in Northern Ontario when I was standing in this wooden cabin going, okay, that was the thin line, razor's edge between living and dying. And that was a very sobering moment for me. And I think I was only 13 or 14. I think that's the first time I really prayed. I was probably 14 or 15. And I remember praying, thinking, wow, this is really what a prayer or a blessing of gratitude is all about. It just kind of, moved like a fountain through me. Thank you for keeping me on this side of life. That's actually what I said. And so being afraid of dying was a really big piece of my journey too. And working with people who are dying, I chose to work with people who had neurodegenerative illness about 30 or 40 years ago. Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease, progressive supranuclear palsy, all of those big illnesses that we had no cure for. And I got into this whole thing because I'm like, okay, I'm going to find a cure. And in those days, we thought there would be one pill that would treat or cure a very sophisticated ill. Well, it didn't work that way, but I did start very much in conventional neuroscience to see if one pill could cure, Alzheimer's disease. And I think that that's because I was part of the Parkinson's disease era where L-DOPA was helping Parkinson's disease. So we thought maybe one pill could help Alzheimer's disease. Anyways, that's a long-winded story, but I've worked with, death and dying, the psychospiritual piece, the mystical piece of dying, and then working with people actually who, I don't know, I just have one of those personalities where I do meet people who are on the edge of life, like see people in car accidents or people who've committed suicide or in their car alone. I could tell you many odd stories about how I have met with people who are kind of in that liminal place between life and death. Did you know that about me?
No, and now I've been you twisted me around, and I'm like, whoa, where am I? I have to go another direction, but I plan on going this direction. Now, I was planning on, okay, we're going to talk about neuroplasticity and how to.
Okay, that's fine.
But it's kind of boring actually. No, it's not. But well, okay, it might connect.
Of course it does.
One thing you're doing is you're trying to help people change their brains, I guess for the better. That's neuroplasticity, a kind of positive neuroplasticity where people feel safe and connected and in control, as opposed to sort of this more negative version coming from trauma, feeling disconnected, getting stuck. It could be some neurological condition like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or whatever. But yeah, can you talk about neuroplasticity? The sort of positive side of it, what it is, and then the ways that we can safely, in a more connected, autonomous way, change our brains for the better.
Yeah, I think it's very, very important. And so when I was running memory clinics 30 and 40 years ago, looking for the single cure for something as complex as Alzheimer's disease, I came to realize very quickly that there wasn't going to be one cure for one illness, because it's not one illness and there are many root causes. And jumping from that, people say that neuroplasticity is kind of a really new concept. It's not. It's just thrown around in the public domain quite a bit now. But to define neuroplasticity for the listeners, if you haven't heard about it, then I think most people have. But it's this very beautiful and hopeful capacity. And I want to say capacity because it's an built-in capacity potential for our brain and our whole nervous system to adapt, to heal, to grow. But as you said, that's positive neuroplasticity. There are many things we can do to engage negative neuroplasticity, where our neurons and our cell bodies and our dendrites, they don't grow. They get killed by toxins like alcohol or, too much alcohol.
Yeah.
Or over time, negative neuroplasticity is engaged when there are stressful situations that people feel like they can't get out of and they feel helpless. But in general, I engage positive neuroplasticity and help people become ready really to do the things that are pro-health behaviors. So we can develop skills and really change our mind, change our heart, change our relationships, our intentions. And with regular practice, we can engage this very wonderful potential that we have. But it shouldn't be assumed, it has to be engaged. I'm happy to make the distinction because positive neuroplasticity can be engendered when we think positive thoughts. And I'm not talking about overriding negative thoughts. I'm just saying when we when we have cognitive stress, emotional stress, and physical stress that's unrelenting, all of those, and maybe even psychic or spiritual stress, we can create stress patterns and cascades in our body that create negative neuroplasticity. And I'm in an era, I'm in a situation in my career where I want to spread hopefulness around all we can do to create positive neuroplasticity. And it's all the way from gut health.
Right.
You can create positive neuroplasticity by having a healthy microbiome.
Yeah.
We know that now.
Yeah.
And by treating underlying infections, toxins, and viruses.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's beautiful. So finding functional medicine and finding this root cause approach to addressing illnesses that are complex has helped me to be hopeful about positive neuroplasticity.
Yeah. So giving our body the sort of underlying physiological things it needs, nutrition, lack of poor nutrition, sleep, and exercise, and breathing in certain ways, etc. But at the same time, using these sort of more cognitive, top-down things, changing the story, changing the way we frame it. And I don't know if we can, like, it's kind of hard to say, just change how you think. But yeah, like you're saying, the underlying biology of these events that turn into this negative neuroplasticity is very similar, or maybe identical to what it leads to these positive ones. I mean, there's stress, there's cortisol, there's dopamine, there's all this like energy in the system, and I guess it's like how you frame that whole feeling and that biology is sort of, that's a big part of what determines it. I don't know how you just change your thinking or change the story, but if you can, that can turn it into a positive neuroplastic event.
Yeah, I like what you're saying, because I do feel as though what we do in our lives, in our relationships, in our work, and I think our neuroplasticity and the set that we have, the patterning that we have endogenously, has a lot to do with our early biographical and biological story. But I also know that it has to do with intergenerational stories that we carry from our ancestors. So I think it is I think we're predisposed to certain things, but there's the opportunity epigenetically to make changes. And I think that's also very hopeful to know that. I mean, a great example is I had a lot of trauma in my own ancestral background, and I knew that there was like a very early heart disease in my family, and that some of my great uncles and my grandmother they died of sudden cardiac arrests very young, right? So I knew this about my ancestry. And then I was like, okay, well, I bet there are a lot of things that I can do. This is just a kind of a physical story, but it has to do with ancestral trauma and the passing down of heart disease to me.
Yeah.
So I got myself checked very, very young for heart disease. And sure enough, I had heart disease at 49, which I think is really interesting. And so I started to work with that, from a physiologic point of view, but also from an emotional point of view. And I've always worked on healing my own traumas, but became very interested in healing ancestral and intergenerational trauma as well, which I've studied and also been involved with.
Right.
That's a long story, weaving together physical illness and trauma stories, because I think they are very related.
Yeah, because where we are currently, the brain that we have right now, which is controlling everything in our life, is largely things beyond our current control. It's things from the past. It's things from the way deep past, our ancestors, but also our childhood and things that just happened. And we have this brain that we can change, but that is a certain way. And you've worked with people who've really got their brain in not their own accord, but yeah, their brain is sort of stuck, very stuck. These people who are in the prison system, you're working in the prison hospitals. These people who are, have attempted suicide. These people close to death. I have friends and some family members who are kind of in this realm too, and it's a very delicate, fragile brain that probably is not likely not going to always cooperate with, say, pharmaceuticals or being told what to do or whatever. There are other more gentle tools, more natural tools I think might be better for them. But then I think what works for them is probably telling us, well, this probably works for better for everybody. What has working with these people who are sort of closer to the edge, and how you've helped regulate their nervous systems, how you've brought in about more positive neuroplasticity, getting them a bit unstuck, bringing them, towards hope, towards change. What has that sort of taught you about how all of our brains work, and what are some of the these sort of behavioral tools or natural tools or things? I'm imagining things like I don't know. You can get into them. That's helped them. And I'm just rambling. I need to learn how to ask questions more succinctly. But yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm appreciating your thought process, and I'm relieved that we're moving from talking about the brain to talking about the map, really, of the nervous system. And we used to think that we had a sympathetic nervous system responsible for fight or flight, and a parasympathetic nervous system responsible primarily for rest, restoration, regeneration. And it turns out it's much more complex than that. And I think, first of all, understanding the nervous system is one of the ways I help to empower people to know who they are, what their nervous system is like, so that they get a sense of their own, I'll call it the window of tolerance. I think it's a term that Dan Siegel developed. Are you familiar with that term, window of tolerance?
No, maybe you can explain it a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. And it really describes different nervous system states. And the window of tolerance is a nervous system state. It all has to do with our perception of threat and safety. And we have a window. I'm going to invite you and the listener, notice, imagine, think of a time when you felt playful, relaxed, really engaged, connected, a mind that was open and present. And just take a moment and to think of where you were, what that felt like, what it was like for your body, what your environment was like. And that's, as you think about that, just notice that that's you in your window of tolerance, you in your window of wellness. You can be connected, loving, present in that window. But below that window, there's a window where you're withdrawn, tired, a hypo-aroused window. And maybe some of your other speakers have talked to you about being hypo-aroused, more maybe in a dorsal vagal state, where it's hard to engage. Right. A lot of people now post-COVID or having long COVID or dysautonomia syndromes are experiencing fatigue, lethargy, feeling alone, withdrawn. And depression and hopelessness are very much associated with that state of, withdrawal and lethargy. So I've told you about being in a window of wellness or tolerance. I've told you about being kind of hypo-aroused, under-aroused, not as engaged with life. And again, these are all, there's no judgment about any of them. We all flip in and out of these states at different times. It's healthy, it's normal. What we want, though, is a wide window of wellness. That's when our nervous system is flexible. So just even noticing and imagining a time of relative safety and calm, even if it's just for a minute or two, allows you to be in that nervous system state.
Yeah.
So I told you about window of tolerance, hypoarousal, and then there's a hyperaroused state. That's kind of when the lights are flashing and you're really either angry or you're racing in your car or you're feeling threatened, so you're angry.
Yeah.
It's an activated state when you're, breathing heavily, and your sympathetic nervous system is very, very engaged.
Yeah.
So it's just good to know. That's the first thing, is to become aware of our nervous system state, and then to be able to work with it. But the first is awareness, right?
Yeah.
And a willingness to say, I want to know myself better. I want to be more connected, engaged, work on my trauma, my nervous system patterns, my rage, my booming voice. I just heard from, I think it was Dr. Porges, the person who developed polyvagal
Yeah.
theory, that a booming voice is also a sign of, a sympathetic kind of trauma response. Yeah.
Yeah.
People who, it really, so much is just soft. It's how do we sound? How are we feeling? How are we connecting? How are we listening? See, you're listening so sweetly right now. You're a good listener.
I'm trying. I'm trying to. It's actually kind of hard when you're podcasting, whatever this is I'm doing, because you need to listen, but at the same time you have these like
To think.
there's like this pressure of I have to like go in this one direction or this or that, and I have this list of ideas or questions and things, and I've actually learned that the more I just sort of don't pay attention to this paper off to my right with all these notes, and I just listen, it tends to go better. But it's very tempting to
It's hard.
to grab my little teddy bear blanket over here. Yeah.
But I like that you're saying that, because it's the same thing for me. Like, I came into this, I'm preparing for a talk on Friday that I'm over preparing for.
Yeah.
And I decided to do it differently today with you. I decided not to do any research and not to do any preparation, and to trust.
Okay.
And sort of, that's also a little bit of a free fall. So I can invite you to do that with me, where we could just kind of try it out together.
Okay. Should I crumble up this paper? Oh no. Oh, it's scary. It's so scary. Now I'm like naked. Okay. 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 This is good. This is good. No. But it seems like I had this list of like tools, like natural tools for neuroplasticity or how to get better. And it was things like nature and social connection and prayer and all of these things that I don't know anymore. Breath. Where's my paper? But it seems like it's much simpler than that. It's just getting to a place of like feeling connected, feeling safe and connected, and that can be through connection with nature. Or like for example, I have little trees, little baby trees around my room, and I'll like it's kind of weird, but sometimes I'll talk to them or uh, kiss them goodnight or something, and I'm like, am I going insane? But it feels nice. Anyway, looking at the clouds and be like, ooh, hello cloud. It's like a child, but anyway, it's nice. Or you have people you can do this with. You can do it with whatever, your voice, your breath, chanting, humming,
Yeah.
but it's all kind of feeling connected to yourself or connected with each other or nature or God or some weird dimensions everywhere, or all of it, or just small pieces of it. But it's about being connected and feeling safe. And I guess that naturally lets you feel calm and lets you sort of regain control over your life.
Yeah. Or just a moment to moment thing where you're doing it right now, right? We're able to see each other. I don't know if your listeners are able to see us. But you and I can just like take a moment together and also be like, you'll be fine without your list, and I'm fine without my
Yeah.
list. And that trust, the kind connection. There's so many ways to engage positive neuroplasticity. And one of them, you just named a few of them, but the main one to me, like right now in life, is authentic connection,
Yeah.
so that we build relational safety and connection, so that we don't feel alone. And there's a lot of artificial intelligence and artificial intimacy in the world right now. And sometimes people have like 30,000 friends.
Yeah.
But to quote Esther Perel or Brene Brown, I was just listening last week, you have like 1,000 friends on Facebook, but no one to feed your cat.
Yeah.
And that kind of intimacy is not fulfilling, satisfying, nourishing, or sustaining, actually, or good for our health. So I'm kind of into slow medicine, like slow food, the slow food movement. The slow medicine is just like things take time. Sometimes healing takes time. And same thing with functional medicine. The same thing with people who have chronic illnesses, getting back to social connection, social engagement. It's a very important part of healing.
Yeah.
Western medicine is so good and important and needed for trauma care and for cancer care, and for there's so many times that trauma units save a cajillion lives. But there's also something about slow medicine, when you can actually have the time and relish the time to work on your nervous system in a slower way.
Yeah, it's almost like really, really simple. You're just literally there together, and like your faces are looking at each other. Your eyes are kind of not locked in. That sounds too powerful. They're kind of melting
It's
into each other. You're entering each other's portals or something. You're like, hey, I'm here. You're here. I got you. You got me. And like, what are we doing? What's
right.
it for? I don't know. Who am I? I don't know. What is this? I don't know. But you're just like there, and you're kind of your eyes are your eyes in your face, and I guess other your voice, for example, are like
Yeah.
making you feel connected, and you like literally feel connected. Like you're like you can imagine some if you have some sort of power ultra vision, there'd be like little laser, not laser beams, sort of more rainbow beams or something connecting you together or something. It feels that way sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. I even felt it like for a minute or two with you
Yeah.
here.
I wish we had I wish the someone needs to make a new camera technology for video call. So when I look in your eyes, I'm actually looking in my camera. Like your eyes are the camera because that's what they are in real life. But now I'm like looking into this eye, this artificial eye up here, and I have to look into your eyes, but it's hard to do both. And I need to maybe I should get some tape and tape my camera to the center of my monitor or something.
No, it's actually interesting. When you look at me, it looks like you're looking at me. It doesn't look like you're like right now, it looks like you're looking straight
Or
at
maybe
me.
they've got the technology. Yeah, maybe it's there.
I think they do because you're looking right at me. Like I feel
Okay.
like I'm looking right into your eyes.
Cool. That's great then.
And speaking, do you want to hear a cool thing?
Yeah, I love cool things.
So I just read this study. It was done at Cambridge. It was done maybe in 2018, and it was a study where they had actually an EEG hooked up to a baby and a mother. So a CAP, electroencephalograph, you know
Yeah, yeah,
what
yeah.
that is.
Right.
And the baby had a cap and the mother had a cap on. So they were recording brain waves and patterns of the baby and the mother as they gazed into each other's eyes.
Yeah.
And they found that the brain waves looked identical. They synchronized completely
Wow.
when there was this gentle eye gaze. So it's interesting, we talk about mirror neurons as adults, but I think there is a way where my presence, whether it's calm or like fearful and reactive, I actually become contagious and we synchronize all the time, but we don't realize it. That's why we have to be so careful about how we approach people and how we treat people and the tone of our voice, the prosody, how we listen, how we gaze. These are all nervous system hacks, but they're lovely ones, aren't they?
They're lovely. They're simple. They're largely available to most people. I mean, there are some communities you might be in, or you might have a certain situation or family or whatever where you literally cannot look people in the eye, or you can't talk to them in a safe way or whatever. But largely, we do have these are mostly available for most people, and to some extent, if for nothing else, I guess you do it to yourself. That's not a bit sad, but it's what you got. You got a little bird or something, a little caterpillar. Play with him. I don't know.
Your little trees.
Yeah, in my trees. I'm like, should I go back to the US? What am I doing here? I'm like in my little Japanese room, like playing with my plants, but talking to you, and talking to other great people. And maybe that's part of what maybe that's why I'm podcasting. It's not about the brain or about um anything else. Is it
That's
because if it's true that our brainwaves are syncing up, and these people I'm talking to, like for example you, have pretty sweet brainwaves, like it's healing, it's safe, it's not gonna harm me, it's gonna lift me up or something. Then maybe I'm just kind of like it's like a hunger thing. You're trying to like we need magnesium, we go for this. We need oxygen, we go over here. Maybe I need these brainwaves, so I'm like just like a I'm not like a vulture like sneaking them from you, but we are like sharing them or something. We're it's like this weird reciprocal thing, and maybe thereby my brain it gets better too, and we heal each other. Yeah, maybe that's what I'm doing. I'm just like literally like it's just something very very simple like that, perhaps.
well, I think that, before we started to record, you were telling me about some things that were going on for you and how the connection has been so life-giving to you.
Yeah, it is.
It's one of the pillars of brain
Yeah,
health, right? Social engagement, but it's about meaningful, not artificial intimacy. It's about sustained, meaningful connection. And I think we have to practice that because so many of us had attachment wounds different attachment training, if you will, from our parents or our, early biological biographical history. But it's an important pillar of brain health. But there are other pillars of brain health. So what else should we talk about? You want to talk about pillars of brain health?
Yeah, no, I want to dig into this a few more minutes. Yeah, so for me, this is it's me connecting my own nervous system with the larger universe, especially the social universe. But it's also me learning about how it's education to learn how to do this, how it's working, why it's working, and it's not just social connection. It's nutrition, it's light, it's temperature, it's all kinds of it's sleep, it's everything. But okay, how can we all kind of just make a more flexible world where we can go in and out of this hyper aroused, calm, focus, energy, lack of energy, whatever. So I guess I'm kind of it's education, but it's also it's connection and safety. I want to talk about eye gazing just for a bit more. I don't normally do this thing, but I went to this eye gazing event. It was like some Hindu chant. They were doing chanting and banging on these drums, and then in the center on this like a king on a throne or something is like this guru guy. He's not my guru. I was there for the physiological stuff. I think I wasn't there for the stories about Krishna or whatever, but they weren't bad. But anyway, at the end of the event, everyone kind of takes their turn, and you spend maybe 20 seconds or so, and this I don't know who he is, like some Indian king, like guru guy or whatever. But a positive guy, probably happy, healthy, loving guy, and he stares into your eyes, and you stare into each other's eyes for like 20 seconds or something, and then he kind of nods off, and the next person goes. But that's like etched into your soul forever. It's like when you saw like looking into the eye of a whale or seeing some I don't know God or something. I know he's not my guru. Maybe he's becoming it. He got me. But no, he's like if you're right about the whole like our brains our nervous systems are syncing up with one another, and the eyes are one sort of the information travel or whatever the connection abilities are high between the eyes, then that's why that kind of stuff works. Like specifically with someone like him, like whoa. So we're just kind of like he's like kind of healing us with his eyes. He's bringing us into that dimension of reality.
That's right. I think that's so beautiful. I'm so happy you brought up that example. I've actually had that experience myself, Michael. And I also want to be able to provide people with that. Like, I think we all have the capacity. He's studied love, that whoever's eyes you looked into has studied himself.
Right.
Maybe.
His book was something about love, and that's all he was talking about the whole day too, which kind of turned me off at the beginning because I'm like, oh, is it one of these? But I mean, it worked, and that's a day I'll never forget. And afterwards, actually, sorry to interrupt you, I got, or that was before actually, is because I knew I was going into that. I kind of came into the event with sort of this connected state, and I never do this. I'm not like I am a bit weird, but there were butterflies flying around outside, and I started like transporting back into my childhood, saying I started like chasing the butterflies and trying to catch them. I knew I wasn't going to catch them, but I was like, I went back to those days of like trying to catch the butterfly and playing with the butterflies. And there were it's cherry blossom season here in Japan, and the petals were flying through the wind, and they were blowing, and there's petals everywhere. It might have always been there. The plants were blowing. I think it might have always been that way. Maybe I just didn't notice it usually, but because I was going in there with this this kind of state, I felt more connected to all of that. And then afterwards, it kind of followed in after the eye gazing and the chanting and all that. I kind of still felt more attuned to what was around me, the beauty of the nature. I wasn't talking to the trees, but maybe I was with my eyes. And that was really, really nice.
I think it's so beautiful because you're talking about the ventral vagal state and being in your window of tolerance, playfulness, connectedness. And you felt safe. You felt like your intention was to be in a field of an experience of love, and you were. And you were in a healthy nervous system state. It sounds exactly like what we were talking about.
It's crazy though, because normally I'm doing a podcast interview, and I had this list over here, and I'm going there, and I'm very conscious the whole time. I'm like, not always, but but now it's like you get swept into this, the way we're talking, like it's not the conscious thought. It's almost like it's this unconscious things that are just pouring out of you. You're letting go, but we're still talking. This is bizarre. I love it though. I love this way of talking.
So happy you crumpled up your paper.
I did.
And that I never.
Yeah. Luckily, papers don't have feelings. So
I love your butterfly story. It's so playful,
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about people who are in the world right now who aren't safe and who don't feel safe, because I've worked a lot, just a completely different story. Well, first of all, I've also looked into the eyes of gurus, and I know what it feels like to be with someone who's very dedicated, who's dedicated their life to loving awareness and loving connection, and has that space and capacity. It's gorgeous, right?
Great. It's great. I wish we could do that with each other, but that's what it taught me afterwards. I was like,
We can.
maybe I can do this for others. Maybe they can do it for me. Maybe we don't need to line up for an
Of
hour to
course.
go gaze into the guru's eyes.
You don't need to kiss anybody's feet to have that feeling. That's my thing. I'm happy though that, getting back to the butterflies and the blossoms, I was also marveling at our blossoms here because I'm in Colorado right now.
Yeah.
And I took some beautiful pictures. I'm happy to send you a few of just these magical blossoms, and they bring you into this childlike, safe, gorgeous state. So thanks for sharing that with me.
But it's hard to do that with the pictures. Like, even if you send me the picture of the blossom, it's like somehow it doesn't work for me. And actually, going back to this event, which I didn't even plan on bringing up perhaps ever, but a lot of the people were like, one lady, she had her phone up here on her chest with a video. She was video recording the eye gazing. And a lot of these people in the audience, they were taking pictures of the whole event. They were videotaping the whole thing. I'm like, what a waste. And I went on this boat a different day a couple weeks ago. I went on this little, like, kind of cheap, like a $10 cruise around this little islands in Japan. And you're like, it's like, whew, the wind is blowing on your face and it's all like green and it's beautiful. And literally 99% of the people, they were just looking into their phone, taking pictures. And I'm just like, I'm grossed out by this. I mean, I know they're doing it, but they're whatever. I don't know why they're doing it, but I'm like, what a waste is the main thing. What a freaking waste of a perfectly beautiful connecting experience.
Good. I hope that message spreads, because I do feel like when we're in the sensory experience, you can't compare it. And we're in such a virtual world now that I hope many people hear what you just said about being able to see and smell and touch. I just think that's really, really important right now. Like artificial intelligence, artificial intimacy, artificial sensory information. I won't send you the picture of the cherry blossoms, I promise.
No, you can, but like, it's not going to do it. It might do it for you because you have this sort of memory of it, and it's going to trigger that memory that is real in 3D and whatever immersive. But for
That's
me,
right.
it's not. I don't have that memory. It might transfer me back to my other memories of cherry blossoms, but it's not the same. I think it's also different if you're looking at a picture that you took versus a picture someone else took. Maybe for these reasons, the imagination.
That's right. But getting back to a trauma healing or nervous system regulation tool that we can kind of glean from this, there's evidence that a memory or an imagination can elicit a very similar biological state in us. And there are all these studies about people who are professional skiers imagining the course. Like when they're preparing for their race, they're imagining the course. They're feeling what like the temperature would be if they turn left or right, how their left thigh would feel if there's a lot of pressure on their turn. And when they do these performance practices with their imagination, it has efficacy in their performance skiing the next day.
Yeah.
You know those studies? So I'm telling you about this is because there's a way to capture that using our imagination as a resource. So if you are in distress and you don't have cherry blossoms with you, you're able to kind of imagine your experience or of the guru and use that as a resource. And I think it's important for listeners to know, for all of us to know, that we can build a repertoire of resources like that.
Yeah.
Beautiful memories that we have, maybe of childhood scenes, or maybe someone who adored us, who we felt really connected to, seen by, and safe with.
Yeah.
So those are all like opportunities to build a toolbox for nervous system regulation and resilience, positive
Yeah.
neuroplasticity.
it's kind of like a prayer or something, or it's a meditation or something. It's with maybe with prayer, you don't have a conscious memory of of being with God or that deeper universe or reality or whatever it is you're praying to or towards. But like maybe that memory is sort of like you said, it's sort of in our ancestral past. It's somewhere deep in your maybe that's what prayer is. Also, you're kind of reconnecting with that old memory and that old world that you don't have access to at the moment, the past.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we can do this, yeah, with our actual memories from this lifetime, by closing our eyes or maybe even eyes open. You can maybe you just reflect on that positive, that great connected experience, and that'll kind of bring you back to a state of safety. Or you can do it like while perceiving the world. Like you can walk through the forest or walk through the city and just like let that be like a filter through your experience, like and like while you're moving, while you're walking, it's like a video memory almost in a way, not just of the experience, but like a way of changing the story of what's around you instead of being like, oh, that stupid butterfly, I'm gonna kill it. It freaking made, I don't know why butterflies are never causing problems. Mosquitoes perhaps. Oh, that stupid mosquito. Oh, that mosquito's like, oh, how beautiful. It's my little friend. I want to play with him. But yeah, it's harder to do this with some things and some experiences. You know, you're stuck in traffic or someone died or something. Sometimes it's hard to like reframe the experience, but you can.
So I was skiing the other day, and I'm a very big skier, but I haven't skied very much. And I was in a lot, my legs were really sore, and it was very thick snow. It's a very steep run, and I was in a lot of pain, like good pain, the kind of good pain from exerting. And I decided to transform it and to push through it by doing some vagal toning, vagus nerve exercises. I first started to hum, and then I started to sing a really meaningful song, the Helen Reddy song, I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar. Anyways, it was a very empowering song from, I don't know, the 60s or 70s or 80s.
Yeah.
And I turned the experience from sore legs into I'm really powerful.
Yeah, like that. That's
You know,
great.
I think that's what you're talking about. So we didn't get to talk much about
I know.
Alzheimer's disease, right? We didn't get to.
No, I mean that's like I said, like this is hopefully not the last conversation we have. 'Cause I feel like we just did like I skipped everything I wanted
We
to talk
started.
about, and we just talked, which is the best part. But yeah, we did skip Alzheimer's. We skipped some other things. How do I reframe this leaf blower outside my window? Who's freaking? I feel like he's interrupting the audio quality or something, or my concentration.
Is it there right now?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can't hear it. But yeah, anyway, it's fine. I don't know how to reframe that one. Breathe, maybe breathe, and just like I don't know. What do you do? Start humming, competing with him.
I can't hear him at all. You have to do is focus on me and
Okay.
on that, on the wisdom
Yeah.
coming out of your mouth.
But yeah, we can use our imagination. We can use humming. We can just use our breath. We can use all kinds of things during our experience or
That's right.
before our experience, and that will help kind of improve our nervous systems as we move through this world. Yeah.
I think so. And I think to not talk about some of the I think we need to also just at least talk a little bit about positive neuroplasticity, because functional medicine uh, is what informed the new treatment approaches to treating Alzheimer's disease and neurodegenerative illness. So the nervous system health to me is a top priority, because there's not much that isn't moderated, modified, and affected by our autonomic nervous system. All of our stress reactivity, all of our inflammatory responses are affected by stress of, persistent stress, good stress and bad stress. So that is a pillar of brain health, but functional medicine, I think, shines a huge light onto how we look now at chronic illnesses and especially neurodegenerative illnesses. Um, in 2014, I was reading some research articles, and I came across an article by Dr. Dale Bredesen, who's since become a close colleague. And I called him in 2014 and I said, this is a multi-pronged approach to treating dementias. And I've been looking for 25 years for all of the different contributing factors to Alzheimer's disease, dementia, psychiatric illness, complex chronic neurologic and psychiatric illnesses. And I said, I want to do your protocol, because he had developed a protocol over a similar 30 years to my 30 years of working. He developed a protocol looking at some of the root causes for dementias. And there are many root causes: metabolic problems, gut health issues, insulin resistance, infections, toxins, environmental toxins, endogenous toxins. So to make a long story short, I teamed up with him to work with his protocol, and that really changed how we look now. So I want your listeners to know that there are root cause approaches to address complex chronic illnesses. And yes, they include very important lifestyle factors like nutrition and movement, all kinds of movement, not just one.
Right.
Restorative sleep, stress management is the one that I shared a little bit about with you, Michael.
Yeah.
But cognitive engagement, cognitive stimulation, cognitive challenge. And I think that for anyone who's listening, this is another reason to be hopeful, that attention and mindfulness training and knowing what to ask your doctor, these are all really important low-hanging fruit, but sometimes hard to implement on your own,
Yeah.
But I don't know, there's so much we can do right now. So there you go, positive neuroplasticity.
Well, if you're willing to come back on, then maybe we could just dig into that next time. Today was like social connection, this mystical, beautiful, imaginary kind of stuff, which is very important. But we also should talk about this stuff that's closer to the actual just physiology of the body, from nutrition, from exercise and whatever, sleep, etc.
Yes.
We can maybe talk about that more next time if you're willing to do it.
I would be so willing, but I think like we touched on something that's very, very needed right now in a world where there's a lot of dichotomy, there's a lot of war, there's a lot of pain. I think it's very important, to be talking about ways to work with the nervous system. I don't think there's anything much more important right now, to be honest.
No, and with the rates of dementia
and suicide,
we just went through this big giant global traumatic event of COVID with the masks and social distancing and actual fear and all this like unsafety, lack of resources, money's fading away. People are dying. Yeah, that was another event that's another whole episode too. I know.
No, but this is really important. I don't want to minimize the conversation around. I want to maximize the conversation around the health of the autonomic nervous system, polyvagal theory, the importance of developing stress tolerance, social connection. You see, I'm reviewing.
Thank you.
I'm reviewing for everybody because not to be minimized. I mean, there's a reason we have war. It's because people are, have their own trauma and are re-traumatizing other people. That's basically it. Yeah. So if we could sort ourselves out one-on-one or three-on-one or however we sort ourselves out, then I think it'll be a healthier place. And don't forget, we also have to talk about how COVID impacted the brain also next time.
Okay, so next time is COVID impacting the brain and things like Alzheimer's and dementia and nutrition and sleep and literally they're endless topics. I don't know if we're going to be able to cover them all next time or ever. That's life, right? But yeah. Unfortunately, I think we got to go. I wish we had more time. We'll try to make more time next time. But yeah, if people want to connect with you or learn more on their own in the meantime, where can they go?
They can go to Dr_Rusk, Dr_Rusk on Instagram or IleneNaomiRusk.com. And there's a really good summit coming up. It'll be on my website. I want people to see that summit. There's some great speakers. So IleneNaomiRusk.com, and you can find me on Facebook too. Right. Thanks so much, Michael, for doing what you do in such a creative way around the brain.
I was creative. Thank you. That's the best compliment.
You're wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Naomi. Thank you so much. See you around.